Howdy! This video is for those who are considering to buy their first V-shaped electric guitar. Now, it's not sponsored by anybody, so I'm not trying to convince you one way or the other. All I'm trying to do is to give you a little bit of information so that hopefully at the end of this quick video, you have enough info to make an informed decision on whether you want to buy the V-shape or go for another type of electric guitar. How does that sound? V-shaped electric guitars come in different shapes, colors, brands, and types, right? So if you're into more old school, sort of classical looking V-shaped guitar, you probably want to go for something around the lines of, Gibson Flying V or Epiphone Flying V. Another brand that does a lot of V-shaped electric guitars is Jackson. So Jackson has the King V, which is the one I have at home. This one is a little different. It has these dents at the end. Because this is Corey Bailey's signature model. The normal King Vs are just flat there, but they're pretty much the same. Jackson has also the Randy Rhoads model, which is a different shape of V guitar. Another brand is ESP and their more affordable LTD line. They also got the normal V-shaped electric guitar. However, they've got a newer model called Arrow, and I've played with one before. They feel great, they look great, and they sound pretty good too. So before we move on, I just want you to quickly pause and have a think about which one of these models actually attract you. It is going to matter as I moved into the pros and cons, and yes, we are in pros number one. The first pro is the looks, and that's the only thing that really matters. Looks are important, but not for the reason that you might be thinking right now. I care that you pick up a guitar that you like the looks of, because it increases the chance of you picking it up and practicing with it and playing with it. The guitar that you love will always get more love. And the more you play with the guitar, the better that is. So that's one of the reasons that it's important that you like the look of the guitar that you're buying. But also, if you create content or if you get on a stage with other people, this is going to stand out. If you want to get a bit more eyeballs in your video content or you're just an attention whore, you get the point. And I am the biggest attention whore out there, so don't feel like I'm saying that you're the attention whore and I'm not. No. Now, let's go to pro number two. V-shaped guitars are usually very lightweight comparing to a whole bunch of other models such as the Les Paul. And part of that reason is because of their design and how, the wood is like all trimmed down in these areas. So I did a bit of a search online to see how each of these Flying V models that I mentioned actually weigh. And they weigh all about, 3.6 for Flying V Gibsons, 3.4 for Jackson King V, that's mine. That's around 3.4, 3.5. And the weight of the guitar, guys, is really important because playing standing or seated regardless, the weight of the guitar will have a bit of a toll on your body. So if you can find a guitar that sounds great, has a good sustain, but it's lighter, that's a plus. Now, the next pro for V-shaped electric guitars is their superb accessibility to higher frets down here. Comparing it with a Les Paul-shaped electric guitar, where the curvature here exists and it helps you to access the lower frets, but not as comfortably. So that's another important pro, especially if you shred down there. Now to the standing part. One other advantage of a V-shaped electric guitar is that when you're playing it standing, you can actually stabilize the guitar against your body. See how I put this wing on my inner thigh? And what this allows me to do is that it allows me to stabilize the guitar a little bit, or move the guitar's height a little bit, or make some adjustments there to make it a bit more comfortable for me to do more challenging stuff. So for example, when I'm doing tremolo picking, which is basically fast picking, what it allows me to do is it allows me to stabilize the guitar so the guitar doesn't vibrate so much as I'm going through that motion, right? Now, ideally with good technique, you don't create that much of a motion on the guitar, but just going back to our own topics, it actually allows you to stabilize the guitar down there. And again, looks pretty cool too when you do it. Now that we talked about the pros, let's talk about the cons. A V-shaped electric guitar is mostly a standing electric guitar. Now, there is a minority in the guitar community, a very vocal minority, that is completely against this. And I understand, like I trust them as people of intent. However, I think it's very safe to say that a V-shaped electric guitar is mostly a standing electric guitar, and here's why. So guys, there are two major ways that we play the guitar seated. The first way is what is known as the classical style, where the guitar sits between your thighs, between your legs, your right arm goes over, and that's how I actually mostly play. And there is another way to do it, which is called the folk style, which is you basically put the rip of your guitar on your right thigh, if you're right-handed, and play there. And both of them are very comfortable, very natural positions of playing the electric guitar. And these positions are possible because of this rip of the electric guitar. It places itself on either one of your thighs, and it stabilizes the guitar so that you can hold the guitar comfortably without having to hold the neck to balance your guitar out. However, because this rip is not existent in a V-shaped electric guitar, you can't actually play it the folk way. As soon as you rest your arm on the guitar, it actually starts to slip out. Right? Now, there are some brands like Epiphone where they, attach a sort of a rubber band on that side of the guitar so that it sticks. I've tried it. It bothers the skin, and if you put some jeans on top, it'll slide over regardless. It's just not a comfortable feeling. So the only option left when it comes to playing the V-shaped electric guitar is the classical version, where you put the V here on top of your right thigh, well, left thigh if you're left-handed, you get the deal, and hold it like this. Now, this only works if you have your thighs close together. If I hold my thighs in a similar position as the other guitar that I just held, like this guitar is going to fall. What you notice is that it forces you to have your thighs pushed together as such. The reality is that most people don't find this the most relaxed and the most comfortable positions that their bodies can be as you're playing the guitar, especially if you're planning to play longer minutes or longer hours. Well, that's a consideration, right? So here's a really easy test for you to figure out whether you're comfortable of holding your thighs together as you play the V-shaped electric guitar or not. Crotch shot. So here's a test, right? Here's a test. Check this out. Sit on a chair like you're sitting at work, at school, you're trying to chill, whatever. Your natural, normal seated position. So don't overextend your legs. Don't close your legs too tight. Just relax as you would usually do it. This is for me, right? If the distance between your knees is more narrow than your shoulders, then you'd probably have an easier job playing that guitar seated, because naturally you can hold your thighs like this and it's very comfortable for you. However, if you're like me and most other people, and you have to put extra effort to bring your knees in, your natural seated position is not like there, it's a little bit more out, that means that you have to put extra effort in there to bring your knees together outside where your body is naturally sitting, right? To be able to hold that guitar. As opposed to me being seated the way I am, I'm just going to put my foot on top of my foam roller as my stand, and you can see I can just drop that guitar and it's there. It's like literally where I would naturally sit. So always remember, when it comes to holding your guitar, holding the neck, placing the guitar on your legs, whatever that is, the easiest position for you is how your body works. So always assess, where does your body naturally fall? Where is your body is naturally located without holding the guitar? And then see if you can incorporate that to how you hold the guitar, your hand, your legs, yada yada, and that will be the most comfortable position for you. Long story short, for all the reasons that I just mentioned, the V-shaped electric guitar is mostly a standing electric guitar. The con number 2 of V-shaped electric guitar is the positioning of the cable jack. This bit, right? Where you connect your guitar to the amplifier. The V-shaped Gibson and Epiphone, the classical ones, they actually have that input down there, which, when you play standing and you want to walk around, it's going to be a little bit hard to actually put that cable behind a strap. So you're a lot more likely to trip on it and getting in the way. So it's not the best design of, it's not the best placement of your input jack. With your normal King V and more modern V-shaped electric guitars, They actually sit sort of inside of the V, so you can actually put it behind your strap there. However, again, when it comes to playing this seated, if I put this jack in here, so I'll show you what exactly, right? And I'm gonna play seated, this thing is gonna push against my thighs once in a while. Let's talk about con number 3. These guitars have a bit of a lesser amount of space for resting your right arm. And you can always adjust it across and find that sweet spot. And to be honest with you, it's not the biggest deal. With a little bit of a practice, you can get used to it. But if you want to compare this with like PRS shape, Les Paul shapes, your Strat shaped guitars, there is a little bit of a less room here. It's not much of a big deal on higher strings. So when you go down there, you've got that more sort of a resting space. However, when you go through lower strings, that space becomes increasingly less, to the point that if previously you had your whole, like this area of your forearm resting there, as you get to the lower notes, it becomes like only this area. And some people find it uncomfortable. Some people absolutely love the freedom. So it sort of changes from a person to the other, and you can get used to that pretty easily with a little bit of practice, but it's something to keep in mind. So let's talk about con number 4, which has to do with moving with the guitar. Obviously standing, not seated, like, you know, you get the point. So when you're playing this guitar and you're standing, if you're walking around, you know, or if you're moving a little bit, there is a possibility, there is an increased risk comparing to other guitar shapes that you hit the tip of these wings against the table, against the wall, against the bandmate. If you're on a stage, most of the stage, unless you're a freaking Slipknot, the stages that you're going to be playing on are probably going to be very tiny and small. That possibility is always there. In fact, if you go to a secondhand guitar market, Facebook markets, your local store that sells secondhand stuff, so on and so forth, a lot of the V-shaped guitars that come in, they always come nicked at the tip. Now, I'll be honest with you, I am absolutely OCD about my guitars. I hate the feeling of hitting my guitar against anything, any of my guitars. And it's not like if I lose a guitar, I'm going to run out of, you know, guitars to play. I have 7 at home. But it's just that I love my guitars and I hate the feeling of hitting them against something. Like every time I accidentally hit him, I'm like, oh, you know, what happened? If you're OCD like me, this is something to keep in mind. If you don't give a damn, man, that's how you roll. And I guess that's a win. I gotta tell you. Con number 5 has to do with case and gig bag. Keep in mind that V-shaped electric guitars have a unique design, and even within the V-shaped guitar community, they differ shapes, like significantly, right? So if the guitar that you're buying doesn't come with its own gig bag or case, you may have to buy that case for it separately. And because these are specific shapes, the price of those cases and gig bags are going to be a little bit higher than the normal guitars. And the last con of V-shaped electric guitars is the stand. So if you have a look at this rack down there, there is this, like, you know, lower tube and that higher tube, and your guitar sort of lay on it and against, you know, the rack, and it's pretty easy, but you can't put this on that just because of its shape. So more often than not, when it comes to hanging your guitar or putting it on a stand, you have to put it on a wall-mounted stand where it holds the guitar neck like this, or on a stand that, again, holds the guitar neck like this. So you have a slightly more narrow choices of stands that you can buy for your V-shaped electric guitar. So now that we got all the info, you may ask, Mr. Sorenzo, what's the verdict? This is what I always say to the students, right? The best guitar to buy is the one that you spend the most time with. Right? It's the one that you spend the most time with. The end, right? So if V-shaped electric guitar is what you want, if when someone says electric guitar, that's what comes to your mind. If that's what does it for you, that's the it, and you know it, go for it. All the other cons that I said about the V-shaped electric guitars are valid. They're all valid, but they're not the end of the world, and there are ways around them. So for example, don't move your guitar like a maniac. You're less likely to hit him somewhere. You get the point. So if that's what does it for you, if that's what tickles your pickle, you know, go for it. If you're a first-time guitar player, if you never played any other guitars before, and you're not really married to the V-shaped guitar, it's just a consideration, it's not the it, you kind of like it, but you're open to other options, then I would not recommend you to buy a V-shaped electric guitar as your first purchase. Do it for the second purchase maybe, right? And again, the reason for that is because more often than not, especially if you're practicing for longer hours, you're likely to at some point be playing that guitar seated. And like I argued earlier, you have more options and frankly more comfortable options if you have a guitar shape that is more closer to sort of like more common guitar shapes as opposed to a V-shaped electric guitar. And if you're still not sure about it, that's okay. Like, take your time. Watch this video again. Do the relaxed body test that I talked about earlier in the video. Sit down, relax, and see how your body reacts in its natural, comfortable state. And put all the information that I told you together, and hopefully this video provided some value to you so that you can make your first guitar purchase a little bit more confident and a little bit more informed. Obviously, the focus of the video was V-shaped electric guitar. I'll be doing another video on how to actually buy your very first guitar. There are other things to consider when it comes to that, but for those who just wanted to talk about the V, this is it. And that's about it. I'm not going to take your time any longer. Take care of yourself, be well, and I'll see you in the next video.